welcome back to the Online Church Blueprint. I am Andy, one of the hosts of the Online Church Blueprint, and we have a little bit of a different episode today. So if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook or on Instagram or if you're watching one of our TikTok reels, anything, you're going to notice that this is a little bit of a different setting. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to take control of the switcher here. Look at that. There's nobody here that seat's actually going to be filled by our good buddy Austin in just a minute. Austin is he is the digital coordinator here at Bay Hope Church. We're actually filming in the Bay Hope studios today. Mark, one of our other co-hosts who was supposed to be on the program, he actually came down with violent sickness, and we'll talk about that a little bit in the episode today. But it's me and Austin, and actually, I was going to have this conversation with Austin, as you'll hear a little bit later. I wanted to have this conversation with him in 2 or 3 episodes, but we just kind of moved the timeline up, and so you're going to get to hear this really incredible young man kind of doing some things in the ministry world that I don't think a lot of people are grasping, and that is dealing with volunteers, but also leading people that are a little bit older than him, but also, or in some cases, a lot bit older than him, but also allowing those people to feel heard and seen and understood. I think one of the things that happens in digital culture a lot of times is that everything is just so quick, and we're trying to set up ministries, and we're trying to make sure that all the spots are filled, and we're trying to make sure these people are getting ministered to, that we forget that the people that we're talking to on the other side of a Zoom lens or on the other side of a camera or on the other side of a microphone or other side of a phone itself, that's actual person, and they have actual things going on. And so in this episode, we get a little bit into the nitty-gritty of how it is to actually lead people, what positions that you can actually fill in a digital ministry. And that's not just in a completely digital church. That's the physical church that's transitioning into digital. That's the physical church that's exploring digital. That's kind of the hybrid church like Bay Hope Church is, where we are 100% physical and 100% digital, and that is for the 100% digital church as well. So sit back, relax, enjoy this brand new episode of the Online Church Blueprint. Well, welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Online Church Blueprint. And you can see I am not in my home studio here.
Yeah, it looks a little bit different.
First of all, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us here. We're going to have an interesting interview with this young man right across the table from me. But we are actually in the Bay Hope Church studios. So I am the digital pastor of Bay Hope Church for my day job. And then I do a number of other podcasts and other things. This good, fine young man with control of the switcher over here, hit the buttons, there he is. He's controlling our switcher today, and there's my camera right there. This fine young man is Austin Slade, who is the digital coordinator for Bay Hope Church. So he works primarily on connecting people throughout our digital capacity. He also does a lot more than that, but primarily the thing we wanted to talk about today was the digital role. So first and foremost, tell everybody out there what you do on a weekly, daily, monthly, yearly basis.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on.
You know what? Absolutely. I thank you for being here, Austin.
But yeah, my primary job is to connect people to what we're doing here, to connect people in the church to the church in a digital capacity.
Well said.
To connect people who can't be here physically because of location or health things or situations, to help them understand what it means to be a part of the church, to actually be the church, even though it looks a little bit different than we normally understand. So that bleeds into small group leadership, that bleeds into our volunteer team that you see on a Sunday morning or that you see throughout the week. It involves helping create a digital footprint or a digital presence on any of our social media platforms, and especially our Discord server as well. And it really just involves getting people connected to what we're doing in those spaces and in those platforms.
Sure. And Austin, is the one that primarily, I don't want to say deals with, because that has a negative connotation, but Austin handles a lot of volunteers in a digital capacity. I've been here, it'll be 4 years in June, so we're recording this at the end of March 2023. In actually end of May, it'll be 4 years here, which is crazy. And a lot has happened in 4 years. Feels like 14, but it also feels like 2 days. And when I first kind of got here, we didn't really have a volunteer base at all in the digital realm. We kind of had to write policies and procedures and really scrabble and ask and beg and try to get people to actually come help us, because as we have talked about on the Online Church Blueprint before, the volunteer culture that you have and the volunteer base that you have is actually an indicator of how healthy your ministry is, how healthy your church is. And so kind of got that up and running. We were able to hire Austin. You've been on staff, what, almost 2 years?
Almost 2 years, yeah.
Which is crazy. And before that, you essentially were wearing diapers around this church. I mean, you grew up here. You went to the day school for a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been here.
I graduated from the day school.
Yeah, and so we have a day school that's attached to the church, so that would have been kindergarten, pre-K maybe? Yeah, pre-K all the way up, and then he's just been at the church for 20 some odd years, and now he's in seminary, and he's doing great and amazing and wonderful things out in the world of Christendom. But while we have him here, he just got done recording a podcast, so our little boy, yeah, he's all grown up. So I do probably 4 or 5 podcasts a week. Austin is now doing a couple of podcasts. He's editing and producing and recording them, which is, just our little baby boy, just flying away from the nest, and setting up and doing all that. So actually we're on the set of this other podcast. You want to tell us about the other podcast real quick?
Yeah. So it's called Young, Dumb, and Trying, just because that's who me and my co-host are right now. We're both young. We can be dumb sometimes, and we try to figure out how what we experience in the church relates to the world we see around us, and really try to make sense of what it means to follow Jesus here and now, and what that looks like for you listening.
Absolutely. So he's also an avid listener of the Online Church Blueprint. Yeah. And Mark, who typically is sitting in another seat up in Pennsylvania, he's actually sick today, like very sick. Yeah. We got done with service last night, and he was like, all right, I'm going to bed. He was like a sweaty, nasty, gross mess. I was on Discord with him this morning, and he's just been like not having a good thing, and so
he's fighting. He's fighting for sure.
it. But I had wanted to do this episode with Austin for a little bit. It was like, all right, well, let's just flip the script a little bit, and so let's accelerate this like 3 weeks. So I wanted to talk to you a couple of things. We, in the digital sphere, we have a tough time wrapping our heads around what volunteer culture looks like. We have a tough time equating what happens in the normal church to, and by normal church, I mean physical church locations, physical church serving opportunities, to things in digital. You and I have tried to synthesize as much as possible how to get people plugged in. And so kind of give me, before we get to the how, or get to some of the stuff behind there, tell me how you actually plug people in. Mm-hmm. Like if somebody comes to you and says, man, I'm super interested, how do you identify that person, number one? Number two, how do you plug them into something that you're doing?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing I start with is, so we have the way our digital church works, it's hybrid. So we'll have an actual Sunday morning service. We'll have 2 Sunday morning services with engagement platforms. So we use Church Online, we use Facebook, we use YouTube. We don't have anything on Discord or anything like that, though we have a Discord server. What I do, and kind of the marker that will kind of, I guess, the light bulb goes off in my head, like, hey, this person would actually really help us, is somebody who engages regularly, not just in the chat, but who is engaging with other people in the chat, right? So they're chatting, they're engaging with us as the hosts, so you and me and the other hosts we have on our team, but they're actually engaging with the message, and they're engaging with other people. Mm-hmm. So you see a common thing that you'll see on a digital church chat is prayer requests come in, or people saying, hey, this is happening in my life, this really resonates with what the speaker is saying. I need prayer for this, and they'll put that in the chat. In addition to the private prayer chat that we have with our individual hosts, that's an option. So what I look for is people who are engaging not only with the message content, but with other people in the chat.
Yep.
People who are present with other people and present to what's going on in the service itself. And that's kind of my first marker of saying, okay, hey, this person might be a good person to invite or even ask to just join what we're doing here. And then what I'll do from there is I'll make sure to follow up with that person individually. I will before I even make the volunteer ask, I'll get to know who they are, what they're passionate about, what they care about, and really, how, I guess, the gospel has become real to them and how they are experiencing the presence of Jesus, not just at church on a Sunday morning, but elsewhere. And that's going to look different for a lot of different people. But I really, so those are the two main things I focus on. And it really comes with, yes, looking at a Sunday morning platform and seeing who's engaging, who's present with other people and with the message, and also getting to know them on a personal basis.
It's an interesting thing too with digital volunteers. A lot of times, you think of something analogous would be like kids ministry.
Yeah.
Kids ministry is weird because parents are always involved with their kids, and I think a
Right.
lot of times people think kids ministry is just this place that they drop kids off to go get babysat for a little bit.
Right.
And the parents that are actually involved in kids ministry understand that it's much, much more than that. But where we start to differ in the digital sphere is that we don't actually have, I mean, we do, but you don't have like volunteer drives. You don't have like sign up here to join kids ministry, that type of thing.
Which
a lot of times
I would say we've tried that, and it doesn't work the same way as in person.
Right,
does.
and that's kind of one of the keys here is that if you are looking to actually sign a volunteer up, you need to understand that you have to make a personal ask, and that's kind of something that I've been on my high horse about a lot. Is personal asks, personal referrals are way more effective than, hey, sign this thing to do 100%. Some nebulous thing. Are ever going to be. So that's kind of all of that. Talk to me also about small group hosts, because they're technically volunteers. And I would say our small group, since you've come on, our small group ministry has been something that I've wanted you to focus on, and you have, and you've done a delightfully awesome job. I think delightfully awesome is a good turn of phrase there. A delightfully awesome job in getting a small group digital discipleship kind of thing up and running. So what are you looking for with a small group host or small group leader?
Yeah. Well, I would say it kind of, I use kind of the same template I use for like a Sunday morning. It's somebody who is actively engaging with a small group, or they're a part of one. They've experienced it personally, and now they want to, or maybe they see a gap and they say, oh man, like I know some people that I really like, number one, and I want to spend more time with, and number two, like I want to talk about Jesus with them. I want to talk about what it means to actually follow Jesus with them. And so again, it's the really big thing that I found in my short time doing this is the personal invitation, getting to know the person. Yeah. And so I would say our group leaders, primarily, they've come out of the groups themselves. But we also have a few people who have, like, they're veterans, so to speak. They've led small groups for years in person, and especially when the COVID shutdown happened, they had to learn how to lead them online. So we have a few of those. But I would say what I look for primarily in small group leaders or small group facilitators, as I call them, because that's a softer term. Yeah. And the approach that I take is like, hey, we have the curriculum, we have the content. Don't let that be a factor in saying, no, I can't lead this. It's as simple as getting a group of people together, pushing play on a video or sharing a video over Zoom, and then talking about it, saying, hey, like this is something that hits me where I'm at personally. What about you? Where does and so I think when I look for recruiting people for that, it's just really seeing people who have an interest, who have experienced it personally, and then seeing people who have a passion to connect with those around them.
What would you say to the idea? So Bay Hope Church is not a small church, and I don't say that self-effacingly. It's just we're a fairly large church. What would you say to the people that are listening to this right now that are going, you don't understand, I only have 100 people that watch us or 100 people that join us online. What do you say to them when they go, well, you have much more people to pick from?
Yep, absolutely. I think that's a great question, and I think it starts with the personal interaction. It starts with getting to know the person and where they are. So if you only have a small church with 100 or so people who are joining, get to know the people in that who are viewing. Take them out for coffee or set up a Zoom meeting and just get to know them personally. And I mean, you can share your heart with, like, okay, here's my vision for what I want to see. If for small group ministry specifically, I believe that is a bedrock of the church structure as a whole, because it's one thing to hear a sermon on a Sunday morning. It's another thing to live it out and to engage face to face with a person and talk about how that's changing you.
Good.
So I would say, really, just simply put, just get to know the people in your ministry now. Get to know the viewers. Find if you use the church online platform and you can see the email that they share. Email them and say, hey, I'd love to set up a meeting with you. I'd love to just get to know you personally, not for any. Not to say, I'm getting to know them for the purpose of, I'm hoping to recruit them for a small group leader or anything like that, but just get to know them personally. And I think organically, leadership and community will form out of those authentic personal connections.
One of the things that Austin is really good at is creating personal connection. He's an affable, lovable, fun guy. But he's also real good at creating pointed connections with people. So one of the main reasons that we were going to talk through this, and we were going to kind of work up to this with Mark and with Tyler. But one of the reasons that I had wanted to bring you on was that in the personal reactions, in the personal interaction, sometimes there's a negative thing. And sometimes you need to be aware of some of those things that you need to look out for. So, what would a couple of those things that you need to make sure that you're watching out for? I'm thinking particularly of a volunteer that we had who... we may have thrown him into the deep end a little too quickly, and that's not on you. That was on both of us for not catching it. And then he ended up blowing up and leaving, and we haven't seen him since. So, what are those things that you're immediately like, "Ooh, I should keep an eye on that just in case"?
I think it's what I specifically learned from dealing with that one volunteer was, okay, maybe I have to be a little bit more intentional about their personal experience leading up to that ask, right? So, for example, in the case of that one person, they came in, they were real gun-ho about getting involved in the church. They had been around the church for a while, but they had been distant from the church. And I guess in trying to contain his enthusiasm and plug him in, it was a lot too soon. And so what I look for now is, you can use the classic discipleship description, long obedience in the same direction. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has been faithfully showing up, someone who has shown a consistent pattern of, like I said, engaging with other people and engaging with the ministry itself, not just showing up on a Sunday morning, but hey, like if you have an online Facebook group or a Discord, they're engaging there, and it's not aggressive communication. It's not hurried communication. It's not saying I need to do this now. It's saying, okay, like I'm good where I'm at. I'm patient where I'm at. Which again, just talking to another guy who jumped in our Discord server and getting him plugged in, he's kind of been in that same spot. Mm-hmm. He's been faithfully showing up for a few months, and he's been consistent in his and faithful in his engagement with other people, in his care for other people, and as a result, he now helps out on a Sunday morning. He helps out in Discord. Like, to me, that experience helped to tweak the way I go about approaching people individually and getting to know them a little bit better and getting to know their experience leading up to this current moment, to make a spirit-filled and informed decision on, okay, are they ready to volunteer, so to speak, even if it's something as simple as they're joining the chat and bearing the title host or greeter or any engagement person that is in your ministry.
Last question for me before we kind of round into home here. When you are leading people, what is your mindset when you're talking to them? Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of leaders, I think, are unofficially always trying to influence people, and they're always trying to say, well, you need to follow my way, or it's the highway. But you can't do that in volunteer leadership. Nope. And you're fast finding that out. This is, all things considered, this is really your first ministry, quote unquote, job outside of school, and out of school. And so what are those things that you've learned about volunteer leadership and volunteer mindset?
The biggest thing I've learned about leading volunteers.
This is a question you didn't prepare for. Like, none of these questions he's been prepared for. So he's answering flawlessly so far.
The biggest thing I've learned is that volunteer ministry is largely contextual. And what I mean by that is you have to meet people where they're at. And you have to be present to their needs, not only what you want from them. You have what I've seen and genuinely what I enjoy doing is I enjoy sitting with people and just hearing how God is moving and working in their lives. And like if I look back, even 6 months ago from now, and to see how the journey of our volunteers has grown, that's been something that is so, it brings me so much joy. And it's not because I'm recruiting them for something, it's just getting to know them personally.
It's a personal thing.
Right. And you talk about personal connections being the best way to connect with people online. 100%. I agree. That has been the biggest thing I've learned, and the biggest thing that I think has made people feel that Bay Hope Digital is a safe space. It's a fun place to be involved. It's a place where they're actually cared for and they're actually seen and heard and loved like Christ loves them. And I think it's like that's how you create that level of buy-in. It's that, okay, this person doesn't care about me just because he has to. He genuinely cares about me because he wants to. He wants to talk with me. And so the template I use in a normal volunteer meeting is I ask how they're doing personally, what is going on in their lives outside of work, outside of the group, outside of the group they may be leading, or any volunteer capacity that they have. Like, what's going on? I want to know your story. I want to know how God is entering into your story and how God's calling you to enter into his story. I want to know just simply, like, at number one, like how's the ministry going? How's your experience in the ministry? If it's bad, let's talk about it. If it's something with me, please tell me. Like, it's a level of humility, I guess, to say, hey, I don't have it all figured out, and that the way I lead volunteers, it can always get better.
Absolutely.
And then we move into, I guess you could say, talk shop or get to business and say, okay, so what's going on? How can we improve? How has the experience been in the group? Yes, but how have other people received you facilitating or leading the group? And then I always close with, how can I be praying with you? Because I believe prayer it's a staple of any ministry, and especially, God moves when we pray together. And so I always ask, and then I always close in prayer. And to me, it's kind of an informal template that I've developed for just how to be present to the needs of that volunteer specifically.
Yeah, there are classes and classes and hours of training that people do to come to that realization that really it is just caring about people. Mm-hmm. So thanks for being on the show today. Last question before we get out of here. Let me come back into the wide shot here so I'm not slinking away. Top 5 favorite French fries.
Ooh, like
5 to 1. Yeah, no, top 5 like fast food.
Oh, fast food.
Yeah,
oh.
Top 5 fast food French fries. Or give me 3 to 1 if you have to.
3 to 1?
Yeah.
All right. Well, hot take. McDonald's, they're going at the bottom.
I agree.
It's just
too much sugar.
Yeah, too much sugar, and then it's like they're bendy and it's not great.
Yep.
I would say
there's a clear number 1 here.
Okay.
I think there's a clear number 1.
Okay. And then next I would say,
well, no, you go give me number 3 and then we'll see we'll see if we agree on number 3. I'll give my 3 and you give your 3.
Okay.
So go 3 3 2 2 1 1.
Okay. So 3, I would say Wendy's.
I would also say Wendy's. That's number 3.
Okay.
Good choice.
2, I would say Culver's. Well, what's number 2 for you then? He just slinks away.
Checkers.
Okay, I haven't had Checkers in years.
I haven't either, but the only thing I remember from Checkers is the fries that had so much like seasoning on them, they were red.
Oh, gross.
That's what I'm talking about.
Oh.
And number 1 is
Arby's. I'm just
Oh.
I'm just kidding.
Jesus is weeping right now.
I just wanted to see what
Jesus is like absolutely
I just wanted to see your face.
In tears.
No, I'm just kidding. 1 is Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, it has to be the Chick-fil-A waffle fry. And do you go ketchup? Do you go Polynesian? Do you go Chick-fil-A sauce? What do you do?
So I do a little combo. I'll do Polynesian or Chick-fil-A sauce, and sometimes if I'm feeling like it's been
extra
a good,
saucy, sriracha.
I'll get a milkshake and I'll dunk those boys right in the milkshake.
See, that's the Wendy. That's the joy of the Wendy's French fry.
Yeah.
Is the Wendy's
The
right
Frosty.
into the Frosty.
Yep.
I thought that was absolute hooey. I was like, wait, what are you putting a French fry into like ice cream for?
It's sweet. The
It's
sweet,
the sweet and salty, man.
Sweet and salty.
Ooh, it hits all of the right notes in all of the right things in your brain and lights up the biochemistry and goes ahead.
Yeah, dude.
Cool. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
I appreciate everybody here watching the Online Church Blueprint. Stay tuned. Next time, Mark and I are going to be back for another riveting episode where we're going to talk about volunteers, but we're going to talk about volunteer culture and creating a volunteer culture, a culture that really allows volunteers to step into something that may feel fully formed, but immediately feels like family. So talk soon.